Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to be painting the bumpers and trim black. Now on this particular year of van, originally they were grey, but I just think black will look so much better against the new paint job that we've given the van. So that's what we're going to do. So in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I go about doing that. Right, before we crack on, let's just have a quick look around the van, just see what we're dealing with. And it's like I mentioned before, originally on this particular year of van, the bumpers and the trim, they were grey. And of course you can see here it's an 07 plate, it's 13 years old. And over time, the bumpers and the trim, they've just got old and tired looking. And of course with a van as old as this, you're going to have the inevitable like scuff mark and scratch here and there. So there's a few of those to sort out. And of course, you've probably seen in other videos that I've done, I've already removed the trim. So that's all ready to be sorted out and painted. And then on the back, on the rear bumper, it just needs a good clean, a good rub down, and then we'll get some paint on that too. So before I do anything, I'm going to take off this number plate, and just looking at the two screws in there, it might prove harder than you'd imagine. Yep, so sure enough, the heads of the screws were completely rusted away. So using the Dremel tool, I put a slot in what remained of the head of the screw in the hope that I'd be able to get a flat-headed screwdriver in there and remove them. Naturally, it didn't work. So plan B was to cut around the plastic cap around the screw and then remove them using some pliers. Said about cleaning all the plastic parts that were to be painted with some warm soapy water using a scouring pad. So you can see there where we've removed the number plate just how sun-kissed the rest of the bumper is. And that's quite a difference there, isn't there? But anyway, the number plates are off. It's had a nice wash, nice soapy wash. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the same 400 grit wet and dry that I use for rubbing down the rest of the van to key that. I'm going to use that to key the bumper, and hopefully it'll provide a nice surface for the paint to adhere to when the time comes for us to actually spray it. The bumpers and trim have got a textured finish, which meant although I could make the scratches and the scuffs look better, I was never going to get them perfect. So we've gone over it now with the 400 grit, and I have to say it's made quite a bit of a difference to the bumpers. Now it's an old van, lots of scratches, and you can still see a slight discoloration where the deep scratches once sat, but the actual touch, for the most part, you can't actually feel anything now. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to call that a success. Right, let's take a closer look and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So here, for example, you can see a big scratch there, or there once was a big scratch there, and whilst you can still see that there's something there, to the actual touch, you can't actually feel much of it. Most of it's gone. Obviously you can see there where it's took the brunt of it, that it's still rough as, but I'm thinking I'll go over it with a file just to take down those high peaks, and then I'll go over it with some more sandpaper, maybe something with a coarser grit, and then work our way back up to the 400 grit, and that should take care of it. So that's the big one there. That's the one that's the real mess. And again, what I'm going to do, you can see there where it's caught. It's almost like burnt. It's almost like burnt the bumper, and you've got like that huge raised area there. So just as the other side, I'm going to go at that with a file, and then we'll take a coarse grit, goad it with that, and then we'll work our way back up to the 400. And there's one other final area that we need to go over again, pay a bit more attention to, and as you'd expect, it's the rear bumper. Of course, you know, people are dragging things in and out of the van, and naturally it's got a bit scuffed up and scratched in its time. So although I've gone over it with that 400 grit and it's removed a lot of the finer scratches and scuff marks, there's some deeper ones there, almost like gouges, that we're gonna have to, like I say, pay a bit more closer attention to and see what we can do with them. With the bumpers and trim finely keyed and the scratches and scuff marks removed as best as I could, I then set about wiping down all the plastic with panel wipes. The trim was given the same treatment, only this time I had Merlin supervising. And finally, everything was masked off using frog tape and newspaper. So the spray paint that we've decided to go with is this stuff here. It's called Autotek Professional, and we picked this up from Amazon. Have a closer look, have a closer look. And yeah, picked it up from Amazon, and the reviews for it are really good. In actual fact, the thing that sold us was, on some of the reviews, people actually included some photos of the finishes that they managed to achieve. And I know you're just looking at a photo on the internet, but from what I could tell, the quality of the finishes were actually pretty decent. So yeah, like I say, that's what sold us. So I guess the only question now is, how are we going to get on with this stuff, and what's our finish going to actually be like? A bit of cardboard came in useful just to blank off any areas of the van that weren't masked off while spraying. I was aiming to get a nice even flat coat, using broad strokes, trying not to apply too much paint. I'd then give it time to dry and repeat the whole spraying process another 2 times. Ideally, I would like to have sprayed the van in a closed space, but unfortunately all I had access to was a field, and on this particular day it was a bit breezy, which hampered my efforts somewhat. So if we're going to tidy up the bumpers, then it seems almost a shame to put these things back on. So what we've done is we've bought ourselves some new number plates, and I'm going to drill them and throw them on once the bumpers are all nice and tidy. I made sure to keep the old number plates, so it was just a case of lining them up with the new ones, and then I could just mark out the holes exactly where I needed to drill them. total it took me 4 cans to spray the van. I'd say at least one of those was carried away on the breeze. Even so, I'm really pleased with the finish that I managed to achieve, and this footage was filmed immediately after painting the van. A couple of days later and the paint's fully dried and cured and looks a much more even coverage. So there you have it, bumpers and trim finally painted, and it was one of those mundane tasks that I really didn't want to tackle, but we wanted black bumpers, we wanted black trim, and it's done, it's dusted now, so we can move on to something else. And I have to say, considering we were just using an aerosol can just to make up for grey to black, I have to say it's turned out better than I thought. It's a little bit streaky in places, but I put that down to the fact that I'm spraying on a big wide open field and not in an enclosed area, and the breeze is just taking a bit of the spray away. But on the whole, got a pretty decent finish, and I'm pretty happy with the results. Even the dent down there, that turned out so much better than I thought it would do. And don't get me wrong, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but when you look at the original van that we brought home to the one that we've got now, it's like night and day. Anyway, what's next? Well, we had a solar panel delivered about a week ago, and that's been sat in the living room just doing nothing, and I think it's fair to say that both Scarlett and I will be glad once it's out of the house and on top of the roof of the van. So yeah, that's what we'll be tackling next. Anyway, I guess the only other thing for me to say is thank you so much for swinging by and checking us out, and hopefully we'll see you soon in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, then please give us a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more and you haven't done so already, then please consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit that notification bell down below so you know exactly when we put up a new video. And until next time guys, take it easy, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.